Yes, I am wearing Halloween pajama pants, but it's fine. You can't see them. I mean, you might be able to, it's fine. Hello everyone, it's Belle. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hello, and if you've come back, thank you so much. Today, you guys, is another sit down video. I wanted to go through and talk about every book that I've given 5 stars to in 2025 so far, because obviously it is only September. Guys, my palm is itchy. Maybe I've got some money coming towards me. It is the beginning of September, and I probably should have done this video maybe in August or like July, whatever, but I wanted to sort of take you guys through the books that were like perfection to me so far this year. I do usually do this video as part of Bookmas in December. I go through and tell you guys every single book that I've given 5 stars, but I've just had quite a few that there is enough to do a halfway point check-in video. Now, so far this year, I have hit my Goodreads goal. It was 70 books. I think I've now read like 71 or 72 books. And out of those 71 or 72 books, I have read 13 5-star books. So yeah, that is what today's video is going to be. So without further ado, you guys know the drill. Let's get comfy, let's get cozy, and let's get right on into this video. Alrighty, so I do have my little reading journal here with me because I guess I started off the year with a reading journal. I just really have not followed through, and I did make a little page of like my 5-star reads. I obviously got lazy and just started writing them in there. I'm gonna go in order of when I read these books. I think it's probably gonna be the easiest way to go about it. So we are gonna start in January. So in January, I think I had 2 5-star reads. I'm gonna grab them. January honestly had such good reads. There were so many books that were like 4.75 stars. When I give a book 5 stars, it really is a matter of like 2 things. So it's either I get the 5-star feeling, right? If you get a 5-star feeling, you know that like immediately it was perfection to you. You like breezed through it, you flew through the book. There was nothing you could fault, like you just had the best time reading it. Or a book that is like 5 stars is like, to me, super layered. There is just so much meaning personally for me, or was just super engaging. Like there's so many different criteria for a book being 5 stars or like perfection to me. So the first 2 books that I gave 5 stars this year are actually a part of the same series, and it was the first, I guess, series I read in this year. They are Glow and Heat of the Everflame. This is part of the Kindred's Curse saga. I started reading this, like I said, in January. Spark of the Everflame, which is the first book, which is where you guys should definitely start, was book 1. I think I gave that book 4.5 stars. It was a really strong opener, but if you compare them to these 2 books, it is like chalk and cheese. Like there is such a massive difference, especially Glow of the Everflame. This is my favorite book, I think, that I have read so far this year. I often say that this book is reminiscent of reading A Court of Mist and Fury for the very first time for my romantasy lovers. For a bit of a synopsis, I guess, of the first book, and to set up the world for you to see if this is something you might like to read. This book follows DM Bellator. She is basically placed in this world where there are like mortals and descendants. Mortals are just like normal human beings, and descendants are basically like half human, half like, I think they're god or magical being. They have magical powers. DM and her mother are both like healers, if that makes sense. So they heal mortals, but DM's mother also is like the healer for the royal family. And at the moment, the king is like incredibly unwell, and her mother has been taking care of the king until one day her mother basically disappears off the face of the earth. The royal family essentially asks her, or forces her really, to come and be the healer for the king, basically. There is one detail I sort of left out. There is, I guess, a visual tell as to how you can tell apart humans and descendants. Humans basically are very plain. They usually have dark hair, dark eyes, whereas descendants with the magical beings, they have got vibrant hair, they've got blue eyes, green eyes, like colorful eyes. So there are visual cues. And essentially with DM, she was born with, I believe, like just standard brown eyes, brown hair. But as she has started to get older, her hair and her eyes have changed color. So very cool concept. Honestly, this book here, I literally flew through it. I remember I literally did not want to do anything else the day that I was reading this other than like taking it with me. My Kindle was attached to my hip. I could not stop reading this. This is a 5-star or like 6-star book. Do you know what I mean? Like 6 stars, no faults. The man in this series, I'm sick over him. And then Heat of the Everflame, I have to talk about really quickly because it is humongous. I believe this is the biggest book that I have ever read. I read it on my Kindle and I think it was 1,082 pages. I read this book in 2 days, which I actually think is insane because I never, ever, ever read a book that quickly that is that size. This should have taken me a week to get through, but again, I could not stop reading this. I stayed up so late. Penn Cole has just, with each book, the series just gets better. Her writing becomes more addictive. Like, it is so good. I've also heard from a lot of you since I've started talking about this series this year that you've decided to pick it up and you are obsessed with it, and I'm so, 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 so glad that you are. I feel like it is incredibly underrated, and I need book 4, I believe it's the 4th and final book. It's going to be called Burn of the Everflame. I need it now. It's essential to my health. These are like two that like this series really is something that I consider like essential reading. Following that, I think this was in, I would like to say February or March that I read this book, and it is the big guns. It is the big boy. It is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. Now, if you guys haven't seen my journey with this series so far, I have read all the books in this series except for Releasing 10. I just feel like I need to be in the right mindset for that book because I've just heard that it is so incredibly heavy. This is the only book in the Boys of Tommen series that I have given 5 stars, and I will tell you why in a moment. For those who are unfamiliar with this series, yes, it is like the biggest thing since sliced bread, but I'll give you a brief synopsis. This book is set in Ireland. It is revolving around characters that are, you know, they're in high school. You are following Johnny and Shannon in this book. So Shannon has just recently transferred to Tommen College. She has been bullied basically her entire life, and at her previous school the bullying situation got so bad that her parents have now had to enroll her in Tommen College, which is a private school, which I believe they said have like a 0 bully tolerance. So she starts school there, and then you have Johnny Kavanagh, who is the captain of the rugby team there, and essentially on Shannon's very first day there, Johnny hits her in the head with a rugby ball, and it's a very sweet meet cute. That is sort of the very tame overview of this series. I will 1000% say, and I say this every time I talk about this series is incredibly heavy and very triggering, so please look up the trigger warnings, especially in this book and the next book in the series. There is a very heavy plot line around family domestic violence. I dare say it really takes center stage over the romance. I wouldn't call this book a romance series. I would call it an emotional romance, or like a drama, if you will, because that is really how it feels. So yeah, let me tell you my story. If you guys didn't see me read this book, I read like 10 pages of it and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like it, because like the characters, like you guys know, Gibbsy, my love, my light, was like talking about how he was like doing all these girls and was like drinking and like all this stuff, and I'm like, you guys are in high school, and you guys know I really struggle to read like YA romance because I just feel a big disconnect because I am so far from when I finished high school that I really struggle to relate when it's just in a general romance setting. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be the same. This is gonna be the same. And then I was like, no, I was doing a reading vlog and I was like, I'll read 100 pages. If I still do not like it after 100 pages, I'm gonna put it down. I read 100 pages, then I read 200 pages, then I read 3 and 4 and 5, and I read this book in a day. I couldn't stop reading this book. It was so good. I literally was hooked. Honestly, even probably from the 50-page mark, I just couldn't stop reading it. Now, a lot of people will say, why are these books so huge? And I was the same. I literally was like, what do you have to say? What do you have to say that is literally a romance book that is like 800 pages? What do you have to say? Literally, I needed about like 1,000 more pages. Do you know what I'm saying? That is how you will feel when you read this book. That is the only reason why this book got 5 stars. I almost gave Keeping 13 5 stars, except I felt the pacing was off. This, I just couldn't put down, and you can't not give a book that you literally devour. You can't give it less than 5 stars unless it had a terrible ending. I couldn't stop. The cliffhanger was everything. So yeah, I love this one in particular. Whilst Gibbsy is my favorite character, Johnny and Shannon's duet is the one that I think back to the most. I think it was the most like hard hitting for me. Like I said, if you do go to pick this up and the series up, please look up the trigger warnings. Okay, following that, I actually think I might have read this one in the same month. I have First Time Caller by BK Borison, which honestly was such a surprise. Now this one I think actually did come out around Valentine's Day, and I left it for a little bit. actually I might have read this in March. I left it for a little bit. I like wanted to be in the right mood, and then I think I did like a reading romance for 24 hours reading vlog, and this surprised the heck out of me. Okay, if you're familiar with Sleepless in Seattle, it is an inspired story, I guess, not a retelling, but it's an inspired story. So in this book here you have Aiden, and he runs this like very late night radio show, and he is sort of like anti-love. Like he does this, like it's kind of ironic, he does like a late night dating advice like show, but he doesn't believe in love himself. And then you have Lucy, who is a single mum, and basically what happens is one night her daughter rings up Aiden's radio show. She's like hiding in a closet, like ringing it up, and she asks Aiden if he can help her mum find like a partner or like love or what have you. And basically Lucy storms in, she hears her daughter on the phone, she's like, who are you talking to at this strange hour? Her and Aiden start talking, start bantering, she's like, why are you talking to my kid, blah 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 blah. He's like, I run this show, blah blah blah. They end up spending the entire night like on this podcast, like late night show, talking and talking and talking. And the next day the ratings come in from the episode, and it did so well that the producers at the studio basically approach Lucy and say, how would you feel about teaming up with Aiden to do a radio show where we help you find love, because we think that it would do so well. So that is the concept of that one there. Guys, I was not expecting this book to be as good as it ended up being. I often say when I describe this book that it feels like reading inside on a rainy day. Like it just gives like rainy day vibes, but in a good way, not in a gloomy way, in a very like sweet way. Cozy, that's the word I'm looking for, in a cozy way. So I just devoured this. Obviously read this in a 24-hour video, but if I didn't read it in a 24-hour video, I'm sure I would have flown through it anyways. Look, I haven't seen Sleepless in Seattle, and I know that it is heavily inspired by that film, so maybe that is why it really did read like a movie, but I was just so impressed. I've read 2 other books by B.K. Borison now, but this one is by far her strongest. So if you just want a really nice, wholesome, solid romance, because I feel like, guys, it takes so long for me to give a romance book 5 stars. This was like the easiest 5 stars that I've given a romance in a really long time, up until another one that I will talk to you guys about in a minute. Okay, next up. I'm actually so excited to talk about this book. Look, I really have spoken about this book till the cows come home, and I just held up the cup for the 3rd book that just came out. The next book that I gave 5 stars to was Assistant to the Villain. This is by Hannah Nicole Mayra. When I read this book, I obviously had never read anything like this bizarre hybrid that it was before, and that is part of why the book was absolutely brilliant. So I often say that this book is a cozy comedic romantasy, which is a lot of things blended together, but I've just not read anything like it before. Again, on Goodreads, I think this is described as being Once Upon a Time meets The Office. Concept of this one here, you have Evie Sage, who is just frolicking in the woods one day, having a great old time, and then she sees this guy, he's a villain, being chased through the woods by these knights, and she's like, what is going on? They end up having a collision, they fall into the water together, whatever, and he's like, oh, do you want to help me? Do you want to be my sidekick? Do you want to be my assistant? So she ends up getting a job with him and going to work for him in his little like manor, and chaos and silliness ensues. This is why I say, you guys, that this book was solid for multiple different reasons. This is the only book in the series that I have given a 5 star, and I dare say it was like the easiest 5 star because I could not stop reading this. The plot was really strong. We are trying to figure out a whodunit, which I honestly think is such a good plot device. I know it's really simple, but it does keep you so engaged. You have like the side characters and all of this like silly, goofy humor that is so authentic and like not forced. I hate when a book has forced comedy. This book is effortlessly funny. And then you have this beautiful budding romance between Evie and, I was about to say his name, the villain, that is the backbone of this entire series. And hold on guys, the garbage truck's going by. It is the backbone of this series. This is a slow burn. So I know if you guys don't love slow burn, you may not love this, but this is slow burn and I ate it up. It is just so good. The reason I gave this book 5 stars is quite literally like the last line, the second last chapter. I was gagged. I was like, yep. That is how you end a book. That is how you do it. Honestly, I have nothing but good things to say about this book in this series. If you want to read something different, please try this. I think I did this for book club one month and it was so nice to see. I think as a reviewer, like when you give a book 5 stars, it's all good and well for you to say it, but it is honestly so rewarding when people go and read the book and they feel the same about the book, because you're like, did I only give it 5 stars because I liked it? I was so happy to see how many of you loved this. Ooh, Next up, I have a yeehaw romance, guys. Honestly, Small Town Cowboy this year has been lacking, I will say, especially because it is like one of my favorite genres. I just feel like none of them have been 5 stars, except for this one that I'm about to show you. I just feel like there's been so many releases. There's been Elsie Silver, there has been Lila Sage, there has been just a lot of Cowboy that has fallen flat, but one that has not fallen flat for me that I just love and adore with everything in my heart and soul is Riding the High. This is by Paisley Hope. It is the 3rd book in the Silver Pines series. If you have not seen this book before, please go and look at the whole series because this is on par with something like the Chestnut Spring series. It is so incredibly, criminally underrated. This book here is the 3rd book. Now, it is a interconnected standalone, so yes, you are more than welcome to read them out of order. I would suggest, of course, if you would like to, starting from Holding the Reins, which is book 1. So this is book 3, and this had so many of my favorite tropes in it. I swear to you guys, this book was written for me. Like, I actually think that Paisley wrote this book for me. So in this book here, you have a single dad. He is also a sheriff, and it is an accidental marriage in Vegas. Now, this book follows Cole and Ginger. This is again a pairing that we have seen little snippets of, you know, over the previous 2 books, and it was a couple that I was so excited to see, and I was hoping, crossing all my fingers, that it was going to be good because I feel like they have a similar dynamic to like Kate and Willa and Teddy and Gus, like those type of couples. And especially after Lost and Lassoed, I was so disappointed by that dynamics book. I was hoping that this one wouldn't follow the same trajectory. This was so stinking good. I can't express to you guys. I think it is the longest in the series so far. It was so beautiful. The elements of being in Vegas and the marriage and having, again, the single dad nanny type of vibes and like just the emotional depth. I forgot to mention that these two have also known each other for a really long time. There is history between them, which I just think made it all the more, you know, special and beautiful. I annotated this book to the high heavens. I think I drew in here too. I just like loved it so much, guys. There is something about I like my wife, call me your husband, like all these things when it's like a little bit of a scam. I just honestly, I eat it up. The emotional depth in this book, the silliness, the spice. I will say these books for like small town romances, they are so spicy. I think I've given every book in this series a 4 chili spice. Guys, I'll do a video later on at some point talking about my spicy scale because I do get a lot of questions about it. I will only ever give a book a spicy rating if it has open door spicy scenes. If they are closed door, I will not give it a spicy rating. At the most, I'll give it like half a chili if it's a closed door. The only time I will give a book a spicy chili is if it has scenes, and usually the spice rating is based on A, how many scenes there are, or the intensity of the scenes. So that's a brief overview, but yeah, 5 stars. This honestly just lived up to the expectations so much, and yeah, I love these two. This was just done very well. Yeehaw, guys. Now we are going to talk about some thrillers because I think we ended up getting into this like really odd time where I just was in a massive reading slump and I like didn't know where to start. I didn't know where to go. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try my trick of either rereading a favorite or reading a thriller. I don't know what it is about thrillers, guys. They just like kickstart and reset your whole like mentality around reading. So I ended up randomly one night going on Kindle Unlimited and getting this book up on my iPad. Honestly, I read this book in 3 hours. It is That's Not My Name by Megan Lally. I talk about this book till the cows come home. This book is low-key so genius. So this book basically follows a young girl who is found on the side of the road one night by the police department, and she cannot remember anything. She doesn't know where she is, and she doesn't know who she is or what her name is. So she basically gets like taken back to the station. They try to just make her comfortable and slowly see if they can get something out of her. She can talk, but she just has no memory again of like who she is, where she is. And whilst this is happening, a man frantically sort of like comes into the sheriff's department and he's like, oh my gosh, please help me. Like, I can't find my daughter. She went missing, blah, 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 blah. And obviously like this is this girl's father and she can't remember him, but she's like, oh, okay, like he's my dad. He's like, look, that's my daughter. I've got photos, I've got birth certificates, like if you need any sort of proof. The police do a bunch of checks and whatever, and everything checks out. So they release her into his care. That is all I'm going to tell you about this book because it will literally keep you on the edge of your seat the entire time. Like I said, I could not stop reading this book. I took my iPad downstairs to like dinner. I was reading my beanbag. I was reading my chair. I could not stop. What is really clever about this is a YA YA thriller, and you are following two different timelines in a sense, or like two different stories, I guess, when you're like reading the book. And it is so clever. The plot twist in this, I just did not see it coming. I don't think anybody who has read this and told me that they read this ended up seeing it coming, because it was just so unexpected. And it was also the only thriller book that I think like made me cry so much. It low-key has like a really sad ending. So that's not my name. Pick this up if you feel like you're in a reading slump. It's so skinny. Even if you're not in a reading slump and you want to try a thriller, I think this is a great entryway one. So yeah. And then we were just on a thriller kick. I read heaps, and I think there was only two more after that one there that I ended up giving 5 stars. The first one was Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. I literally never stopped talking about this book. It is so genius. I will say before we get into this that this one is definitely more on the spooky side, and I will explain why. So essentially this follows a young girl called Mallory who gets a summer job babysitting this little boy called Teddy. He and his family have recently just moved back to the United States, and he basically needs like a babysitter over the summer. And as she starts to like get to know Teddy and what have you, she notices that he loves to draw, and he has started drawing these pictures of his imaginary friend, and her name is Anya. And as I was saying, this book is not for the faint heart, because we actually do get Teddy's drawings throughout the entire book. And let's just say that as the book progresses, the pictures get creepier and creepier and creepier. They play a massive part in the storytelling. So this is a book that if you do want to read it, I highly recommend that you read it physically or on your Kindle. Do not listen to the audiobook, because obviously you won't get to see the incredible pictures that are in here. I, again, have never read anything like this before, where you do have a visual medium like aiding the storytelling. It was so engaging. I will say that it spooked me a little bit, because like you have no idea if this is actually like paranormal, if it's like a murder mystery, like what is going on. It's so clever. And again, the plot twist, I have it in a reading vlog somewhere of me literally like recreating what happened, because I like jumped out of my chair and I was frozen and had full body goosebumps for like 5 minutes afterwards. It's addictive. It's crazy. I did tear up a little bit at the end, which what is with these thrillers making me low-key a little bit emotional. Can't recommend this one enough. It was just so clever. I then have, where is it? This dark romance. It's an dark romance, which I honestly forgot about. It is called Kiss a Villain. This is by Mia Darling. It's the first book in the No Mercy duet. I, like, again, read this on Kindle Unlimited, and I flew through it. This is such an odd concept for a dark romance, but it is childhood friends to lovers, mafia, and of course There's like boarding school elements to this too. Like I was saying, this is a duet, so I believe it's going to be broken up into their childhood and them as adults, which is going to be book 2. Guys, this book was so beautiful. It was reminiscent of something like Red, White, and Royal Blue in terms of like the poetic quotes that I was reading. It was stunning. I do still need to like move my annotations from my Kindle over to the physical, because these boys were like spitting poetry. You guys know I love me a bit of and like for an to be really good, I was obsessed. And then literally the ending, the last chapter, I was like, yeah, I need the second book now. Like, it's essential to my health. So yeah, basically it's like the son of a mafia boss, and then like one of them got abandoned, like the "you saved my life" trope when they were kids. You guys know I'm a sucker for childhood friends to lovers. This just did it so well. Forbidden romance too, because of course they're in the mafia. Hello. Please read this book. It was so beautiful. Then you guys, I read an absolute doozy. I think this is my favorite thriller that I've read this year. I've literally said that about like the last 3 thrillers I talked about. This is my favorite thriller that I have read this year, because I have never read anything like it. It is We Used to Live Here by Marcus Clyweir. Oh my goodness. I can't even put into words how much I loved this book. This follows a couple. Their names are Eve and Charlie, and they both they renovate like houses. So basically they buy them, they flip them and sell them, right? So they have recently just purchased this new house at 3709 Heritage Lane, and essentially they're still in the process of like unpacking boxes and what have you. Charlie's gone to work for the day and Eve is home alone, and she gets a knock on the front door. So she opens the front door, and standing on the little porch there, we have a little family. So we have a mum, a dad, 2 boys, and a little girl. And the dad, his name is Thomas, he basically says, "Hey, I'm so sorry to bother you, and this is so random, but we were just driving through the neighborhood, and I actually used to live here when I was a kid, and you absolutely do not have to say yes, but I was wondering if there's any chance that I could show my family like the house, like where I grew up." He's like, "I know it's so random, please don't like feel obligated to do this, but I thought I would just ask whilst we were passing through the neighborhood. And obviously Eve is a little bit skeptical at first, but she is a people pleaser, and after a few back and forths, she decides to let them in the house. The front of this cover literally says, "You let them back in, you shouldn't have." So it's basically like once you let them in, she just cannot get them to leave. So this book was such an emotional and like mental roller coaster, because at first I was like, oh, this is going to be a home invasion. This is going to be a home invasion and I'm going to freak out, because I love horror movies, but I cannot stand the like home invasion story. It freaks me out, because to me it's more realistic than like a paranormal ghost. Do you know what I'm saying? Like people breaking into your house and like keeping you hostage, to me is more like realistic. So I thought that was the route that this book was going down, and when I tell you, it was not. I still am wrapping my head around what I read in this book, because I feel like I journeyed through time and through space and through different, I'm not going to spoil it. I feel like I went on the same trajectory as Eve. This book is crazy. There is Morse code in this book. And yes, I bought the physical so that I could literally decode the Morse code. This book is genius, because I don't know how long it would have taken Marcus Clyweir to write this book, but the amount of detail and depth in this book is crazy. There are documents after every single chapter that all relate in the end. It is just so clever. That is the only way that I can put this. I literally had to watch an hour and a half deconstruction of the book after I finished it, because I feel like I got it, but then I needed more explanation, because it was just so much more layered. Not in a sense of like it's hard to understand. It was so much more layered than I actually realized whilst I was reading it. So if you guys have read this book after I like wouldn't shut up about it, please tell me what you thought, because I've had a few of my friends in real life read it and they are obsessed with it as well. It's just so unlike anything. Even that synopsis that I gave you is so far removed from what this book actually ends up being. It's crazy. I would actually love to reread this during Halloween time. Okay, now we only have 3 books left, which is kind of crazy. Next up is another, I don't even know if I would call this a thriller. I'm gonna call it a paranormal thriller, paranormal romance. I'm gonna call it a paranormal thriller. It is Deadly Occupants by Mads Rafferty. Now, this book was such a surprise, because as you guys will know, Mads and I are friends in real life, and I guess I just like hadn't gotten around to reading her books for a while. I was at her place and I was talking to her, and I was like, because we both love thrillers, like we love thrillers so much, and I was like, I feel like when I watch like those classic movies like Scream, Friday the 13th, like any of those like OG like slasher movies, horror movies, I want someone to write a book like that. I want there to be like a bit of a romance plot and all these things and blah 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 blah. I was like, have you read a book like that? She's like, girl, I wrote a book like that. She's like, have you read Deadly Occupants yet? I said like, no girl. She's like, dude, read it and come back to me. So guys, this book is like if Pretty Little Liars and Paranormal Activity had a baby. That is the only way that I can describe this book. It is so clever. So this book follows 4 best friends. They are in college, and one of the girls has an absolute obsession with the paranormal and the spooky side of things, and on Halloween night she books them like a little ghost tour or like investigation of this old haunted house. They go in there, there's a bunch of those like EVP recorders, and they're like trying to catch all this like, you know, paranormal activity whilst they're in there. They do have a tour guide, and basically our main girl, I believe her name is Blair, she actually gets her name like said out on like a recording. So all the girls like, oh girl, it likes you. You should try and talk to it. They end up going up into the attic. I'm not going to explain what happens there, but let's just say it's kind of crazy. And then when they go home, whatever was in the house follows them home. Like it literally like goes home with them, which is terrifying. That is the main general setup. But guys, this book was genius, because as I said, I have never read anything like this before, because you have the sorority elements, you have like the college drama and all of that like romanticized college life of living in a dorm and like all of this stuff. There's a heavy romance plot in this, which is so fun because you never see a heavy romance plot in a thriller book. You then of course have these jump scares and scary moments, which were all equally balanced with the other like subplots that made this book a stroke of genius. I couldn't put it down. Like I said, the reason this book got 5 stars is because no one has written anything like this that fits that niche of reading like a horror movie, like a cheesy classic 90s horror movie, 2000s horror movie, where you have the friendships, the romance, and the, you know, the plot, the scary stuff that's happening in the plot. Please read this book. It's addictive. I read it on Kindle Unlimited. All of Mads's books are on Kindle Unlimited. There's a Ouija board, you know, it's everything that you want in a paranormal thriller, but elevated with those college romance vibes. Like it is just, it's so clever. So yeah, super underrated. Please put this on your TBR as well coming into spooky season because you will absolutely love it. Following that, now I don't know how well the camera's going to pick up this cover because some reason it just doesn't like it. I started the Bourbon Brothers trilogy by Victoria Wilder. There are 3 books, obviously it's a trilogy. So Bourbon Lies, Bourbon and Secrets, and Bourbon and Proof. It basically follows a family, they're called the Fox family, and they run like a bourbon distillery. And I will say that this series honestly feels like a romantic suspense set in a small town. I've seen people say that this is like a dark cowboy romance. It's definitely not dark romance. It's a romantic suspense series. So out of those 3 books, I only gave one of them 5 stars and I literally can't shut up about it. It is Bourbon and Secrets, which is book 2. Guys, I always say the concept of this one here, this is a single dad and a burlesque dancer. I'm actually sick over this book. Guys, I've never read a book like that. You guys will often find the books that I really enjoy reading and like give 5 stars are books that I've never read anything similar to before, because I feel like nowadays in the publishing industry, like all these authors are writing the same books, the same tropes, the same characters, and I've never ever read a book about a burlesque dancer. And you guys know single dad is my kryptonite. I'm gonna put it on the screen because again, the cover is just not happening. Again, I don't want to spoil it too much, but let's just say you are following Lincoln and you're following Faye. So Lincoln's a single dad. His wife very tragically passed away. There is a law around this series that every woman that a Fox brother falls in love with sort of meets a tragic end, which is really sad. So his wife died from a brain aneurysm. He's been raising his daughters on his own. And then you have Faye, who also finds herself in a little bit of a predicament at the beginning of this book. I won't tell you what that is. They have a run-in one night, they have a kiss, and basically he tells her to leave town and to never come back. When she does come back, I won't tell you what that is for. She comes back and she's working as a burlesque dancer at the local club there, like the pub there. Guys, this book was so good. It is incredibly spicy. It is so romantic. You guys know I'm a sucker for a single dad romance where the kids are not an accessory, like where the kids actually build a relationship with the incoming love interest. Like it was, guys, I can't get over this book. I'm sick about it. I'm literally sick about it. There are scenes in it that I think about on the daily. I think if you, again, want to read something a bit different, to elevate your cowboy romance series, to add more intrigue and mystery, to turn your thinking cap on, you will love this series. And last, but certainly not least, is my most recent 5-star read. And I'm actually going to go down in record and say that this is the best romance book that I have read this year. I just think that it stands out above all else because, again, I have not read anything like it before. It is Breaking Point by Mads Rafferty. This is a book that was so surprising to me because you guys will know I have been an ice hockey hater this year. Every ice hockey book that I have read has been garbage because everybody is following the same mold. Everyone's doing the same tropes. No one's doing emotional depth anymore. Everyone just wants to have the funny group chats and, like, you know, the silly, spicy, you know, one night stands. And there is nothing to me that is intriguing about an ice hockey romance anymore because I feel like I've read it all before. I know it sounds really stupid, but I feel like I've read it all before. So when Mads told me that she was releasing this book and she sent me an arc, I was like, girl, in all honesty, I hate ice hockey at the moment. I think it's not it. So if it takes me a while to get to this book, like, I do apologize. She's like, girl, no pressure. I ended up reading this in a reading new releases vlog. Like, I read new releases for a week. Now, let me tell you something. This book follows Bella and Grayson. Bella is an artist who has just been fired, unfairly, might I add, from her job, and her mother is very unwell. I won't say what I guess she is battling, but her mother requires constant medical attention, and Bella is basically the sole income provider. So in order to pay for her mother's treatment and for her medical bills, Bella needs a job, and she needs a good job. So she ends up getting an assistant position that her best friend applies for her for, like, very sneakily. She ends up getting an assistant position, and she ends up being the assistant of Grayson, who is a very famous ice hockey player. He has also been going through some very, very, very heavy things over the last year. He is dealing with the grief and the loss of a family member, and it has really shaken who he used to be. He is now a party goer. He only drinks, he sleeps around. He's just not the man that he used to be because, you know, this loss has really shaken him and he's never really processed it and, like, worked through it. So, you know, she starts working for him, and then one day he basically gets a threat that he's going to lose his contract or he's going to be traded if he does not pull his act together. So his management team sort of suggest if he, you know, started to become a little bit more personable and had like shown that he had settled down or maybe tried to go back to how he used to be, then maybe he would be able to keep his contract. So they suggest a fake dating scenario, and he's like, look, in all due respect, if I start dating somebody now, everyone's gonna know that it's a PR stunt. No one's gonna believe it if we randomly get some person to start dating me. So he says, if we're gonna do this, I want Bella, like his assistant, because he goes, it makes sense. She works for me. People will understand that we've spent a lot of time together. It's a pre-established relationship, and that is how the story goes. Now, yes, that concept sounds like a general ice hockey romance. Guys, when I tell you this book, the hero of it is the emotional storylines on both sides. I have never read an ice hockey book that was this sad, okay? And you guys know I'm a sucker for an emotional romance. This book will make you cry, and I'm not talking like pretty little tears. I'm talking ugly snot coming out of your nose, hyperventilating. This book is sad, and that is why I'm calling it an emotional romance. I really feel like it is the hero. Yes, it is incredibly romantic. The yearning is off the charts, okay? The side characters are so funny. All of those beautiful elements that you like in an ice hockey romance are just like tenfold, but the emotional elements, you guys, it is the hero of this book. I took it like on my walk. I was holding my Kindle because I was like, I need to keep reading. I can't stop reading this book. Guys, please read this book. It ruined my life, and it will ruin yours too, but in the best way. So that is every book that I've given 5 stars to so far this year. Alrighty guys, that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for sticking through all the way to the end. If you did, I really, really appreciate it. Give me like your top 3 books that you've given 5 stars. Have you given any books 5 stars this year? Because some people really don't. Some people are really particular. I'm gonna say just really quickly, I guess my top 3 books that I think you guys need to read this year that I've read. I'm gonna give you one from each genre. Obviously, I need you guys to start the Kindred's Curse saga, but please obviously start with Spark of the Everflame because you need to get to this book, which is book 2. If you want to read a thriller, We Used to Live Here. I just need everyone to read this book. It's actually like, it's essential to my health and to your health. And then for a romance breaking point, like I said, is my favorite romance that I have read so far this year. As always, if you guys aren't already, you're more than welcome to follow me on my socials. I'll leave my handles on the screen and down in the description box. And if you'd like to, you can like this video and subscribe to my channel, and make sure you are hitting that notification bell. That way you're notified each time a brand new video goes up. Thank you guys so much for stopping by again. I really, really appreciate it. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a lovely day or a lovely night, and I will see you all next time. Bye.